For many people out there, Castle Schrade might not be all that familiar, especially when you started with Monster Hunter World and Iceborne. However, for us many veteran hunters out there, Castle Schrade is one of the most important locales to go through, especially when we are testing ourselves to fight against one of the most infamous black dragons out there, which is Fatalis. Now what we're going to be exploring here today is the location of the Castle Schrade relative to the New World, and second of all, the history of this location that made it so important in the history of Monster Hunter. Now let's go ahead and check them out. Hey everyone, Korapinoy X here once again, back with another Monster Hunter video. So today what we're going to be exploring is none other than the newest locale coming up into Iceborne, which is Castle Schrade, a location back in the old world, as well as the history behind this particular locale. What we're going to be looking into here is first and foremost just how far the Research Commission had to travel back into the old world in order to get to Castle Schrade, and second of all, just what exactly is the history behind this locale that makes it so important that Capcom would bring it back into Iceborne rather than bringing Fatalis into somewhere like, let's say, the Secluded Valley. So we're going to be exploring both of these topics just to get a better understanding of Castle Schrade altogether throughout the world of Monster Hunter. So to quickly get started, let's first take a look at the location of Castle Schrade relative to both the old and the new world, so that you have a better idea as to where exactly we are traveling in the world of Monster Hunter. This is the world map that Capcom has been using for a very long time to show the world of Monster Hunter for both the old and the new world region. On the left hand side right here where there's all these unique weathers, this is meant to be the region of the new world. The reason that they have these unique storms and weathers is because it makes it difficult for the guild to actually travel to the new world due to unnatural weather. And for the most part, I think you can pretty much guess as to why there's a lot of unnatural weather in this region. That's right, the Elder's Crossing. The Elder's Crossing is causing all of that unnatural weather, and we even get to experience that at the very beginning of Monster Hunter World. So that's pretty much the region that we're going to be in at the start of this particular task of taking down Fatalis. From this region, so we start at the very bottom here, we travel all the way up to the region of Schrade, and this is where Castle Schrade is going to be located. Now from this point on, this is the region that is the most important in first generation Monster Hunter, because all of the locations within the Schrade area are all locations that we've been introduced to in the very first Monster Hunter game. So we're gonna go through all of that in the history a little bit later on, but for the most part, that is gonna be the region that you're gonna be focusing on if you are a first generation Monster Hunter player. So now that we have a rough idea on the location of Castle Schrade and how far it is from the new world, what about its history? What makes it so important that we have to go all the way back there in order to deal with the Fatalis? Well, the reason it's so important is first and foremost, this location is deeply rooted into Fatalis' history. When we talk Castle Schrade, we talk Fatalis, and when we talk Fatalis, we talk Castle Schrade. Alongside this, Castle Schrade thousands of years ago was actually the centerpiece of what was known as the Great Schrade Kingdom. Schrade Kingdom was quite a prosperous kingdom all those 1,000 years ago. However, in the span of a single night, this entire kingdom was completely and utterly demolished by a single entity. This is none other than Fatalis, the legendary black dragon. So you can pretty much see as to why we have to go back to Castle Schrade in order to deal with Fatalis to begin with. Because we are not just dealing with the monster anymore, we are dealing with the history of this entire kingdom to begin with. So now that we understand the history behind Castle Schrade and Schrade Kingdom in its entirety, as well as how it all ties to the Fatalis altogether, hopefully that gives you a better idea as to why we have to travel all the way back into the old world in order for us to deal with the legendary Black Dragon. One of the key things that we are doing here is we are preventing history from repeating itself by having Fatalis become super active to the point that it could potentially decimate yet another kingdom in the span of a single night. So that's the reason why they say we are fighting history here. We are not simply fighting a monster. Now, as a couple of final notes before I go ahead and conclude this video, first off, according to historic records, despite the fact that Shhrade Kingdom is no longer around due to its destruction at the hands of Fatalis, remnants of this once great kingdom are still active to this day. They come in the form of 4 independent regions, meaning that these are actually 4 independent settlements that have a history with the Shhrade Kingdom altogether. These 4 settlements are none other than the city of Verudo, city of Riveru, Kokoto Village, and the town of Minigard. Now, all of these regions are independent from one another, but for those of you who have played first generation Monster Hunter, especially Monster Hunter on the PS2, you should be very familiar with Kokoto Village as well as Minigard and how these 2 regions are actually related to one another as being the offline and online hub of the very first Monster Hunter game. So that's a little bit of a trivia out there for anyone who has played the very first Monster Hunter game altogether. Second of all, some people believe that the legendary black dragon that we are about to face in Iceborne might not necessarily be the exact same creature that laid waste to the Shhrade Kingdom all of those years ago. The power of that particular monster was so immense that they believe it could may well be the variation of Fatalis that did destroy Shhrade Kingdom instead. We don't exactly know which variation of Fatalis did it, whether it's the Crimson Fatalis or White Fatalis, but they believe that the legendary black dragon that did destroy Shhrade Kingdom all of those years ago may not necessarily be the exact same dragon that we are about to face in Iceborne once the title DLC update launches around October time. So keep that in mind. The power of Fatalis altogether, for those of you who have never fought it in previous Monster Hunter games, can still evolve even further than what it's capable of as of right now. And that is pretty much it for this video, taking a look at the locale that is Castle Schrade throughout Monster Hunter. What do you think about this locale altogether? Is this gonna be your first time traveling into the old world with Monster Hunter World Iceborne, or have you actually been into Castle Schrade before and other locations in the old world in previous Monster Hunter games? Let us know in the comments below your experience with Castle Schrade and other regions of Monster Hunter altogether throughout the entire series. Now, with all of that being said, if you enjoyed these videos, please consider leaving a like on the video itself and subscribing to the channel, as well as hitting that bell icon so you can go ahead and catch up on any future Monster Hunter content that I might be doing or any other games that I might be playing in future. Until then, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks ever so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Onward and upward.